whatever it is, wherever you are. So where the heck do we leave off? Starting HTTP request port. So I'm thinking we maybe didn't quite figure out how we want to do message backs. All right, so anything about we're going to stop or I don't think we're actually doing anything. Yeah. With it yet. All right, so auth request, probably I'm still on dummy env. We're going to be mostly in this directory. All right, because this is the port. We did handler. Once we get an event, the only event we handle right now. Right, so request from Lambda. Response to a request, which we're currently sending bad stuff right now, so we're not getting an actual key. I think I did a test with the appropriate values. Oh, we don't have a means to link individual requests right now. So either we have to pass something through that we can pass back, or we have to just kind of assume the next expected response, which I don't know that That sounds like you get yourself into some trouble if you do next expected response. Got a bread machine going. So we don't have any built-in body parsing because we have the only way Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't think there's any way to like JSON encode an Elm function. You know, even if it was a completely opaque value. So you could get it back and call it. What does the automatic encoding system look like? Let's see, it's not package. This is going to be flags and or ports are going to use the same kind of system. I guess flags would only deal with encoding one way. That string, any of the types that work with flags, so yeah, so it's going to be restricted. That's from the time before JSON encoders. Bool int float string, maybe list array, tuples records, decode. Yeah, so that will actually fail. So either I do an ID-based system where I say this ID is that. I could have like named response handlers and do more string decoding. I mean, effectively that is the same as the version where you have a message that you put in. Well, messages could themselves take some sort of parameter. Because I also have to deal with the problem of how do we associate a incoming request with its ultimate response. Now, I believe that I could pass a JSON or a JavaScript function, callback function, through Elm as a JSON value. It's not recommended to store functions in the model, but it would essentially be a unique request token. And as a JSON value, I could actually pass it back through a port, which would effectively make this like continuation passing style. Or I just, yeah, I was afraid that if I did like store the most recent callback function, that you could, if a new request came in, it would overwrite that and you'd end up responding to the wrong thing. So to respond, I need both a way, I basically need to pass, I basically need a way to encode and decode. Oh, that's what I was, one of the things I was looking at. I don't think you can make a JSON encoder for a partially applied function. You can destruct a custom type using its constructor, but I don't think you can do a partial deconstruction. To say, well, this is a thing in progress, we want to encode that and then re-encode it. So we'd have to start out using some sort of encoding. So we've got two problems. Can't print model with keys. Yes, we've partly solved the key problem. We really need to solve the request continuity problem. First of all, what response is coming back? Which I might actually be able to do to a certain extent with just a one of JSON decoder that's like, well, is it that? Nope. Is it this? Maybe it's that. Probably not the most efficient method. Which means our HTTP call, instead of our Lambda request, instead of a tagger function, kind of has to be a tagger string? I mean, it's either a string or we come up with some sort of like JSON value that we can use as a, which would effectively some sort of wrap string, that we can use as a token to talk. And I can avoid the sort of string matching thing a little bit by defining a symbol for it and using that both to send and to can you do that? I mean, it's still a string, so we still have to deal with the I mean, the yes no actually doesn't really matter here, but now this might actually be that this has to be a top level definition. Yeah, because then it sees a variable-like thing. It wants to treat that as a variable being matched in the expression. So if you do a symbol like that, you can't use case. You just have to use if else, if else, if else, if else, if else. Or you have to type the literal string here, which means you could mistype it. Or we could make a custom type and have an encode and decode function to get the strings that actually go into JavaScript land. That kind of feels like some extra friction. Because you'd have to define the encoder both ways. And you're going to have literal strings in there anyway, so you could still have the typo. Am I getting a caps lock? Excuse me. So a network request. Though it's not necessarily a tagger, it's almost a tag. Or would that even be the response kind? No, kind is like Lambda response. That gets handled in the event layer. So that's where it came from. So we could treat that as response to fetch token. And we could probably even have an extra little parameter in here to directly match against that. Code.string. Request, message request. That one. So we've got info. Kind response, body. And then on the M Lambda side, right, we made these all separate definitions. So you're going to be a map 2. This actually becomes much more awkward. And then you have to become a decode dot map. Which kind of becomes our template for the rest of this stuff. So bad body error. You were just network error. But this is not just succeed now. You technically have to stay map 2. And then this is the decode dot succeed. And we get a response. So we're going to have response to fetch token. And then any other unknown thing has to be handled there. Okay, bad status 400. HTTP error. Fetch token bad status. So if we try that with an actual setup, kind response, token response internals. All right, so this is now a response particular to that. For out of which the only field we care about is access token. So that's going to be our auth. You've got JSON decode. For decode value. You've got env, so I am going to do videos. That would actually let me do some of the trickier parsing in this app. If we brought in the Twitch package, and then I guess I could add a decoder for the access token. But for now, to do that, we have to do ... because we're in Lambda, or in source of Lambda, actually. No. This is in Lambda, and in this project, oh, that depends on the Elm HTTP module, doesn't it? That might be a... Yeah, because we've got the HTTP request. Which we're not going to use. So I think the compiler won't actually include that. If we never reference the Helix module directly. I am curious, though. So right now our compiled size is 72 kilobytes. This is a nice tight dependencies. That is going to... I am going to have everything that... I don't know if it's a source reference. I might only need the things from... Well, they'll show up as indirect once we use the real library. Because I know I'm going to need the date strings. Oh, these are library references. So the ones from a library will not translate to an application. Okay, so we haven't used anything, so that actually doesn't... So we won't end up well, when we add the library, we'll get an indirected dependency on HTTP. Hasn't changed yet. I actually do. Oh. I actually left myself a note. I might have covered this. Remove Kraken community. Yeah, so really this thing needs to... This has not kept up. I forgot I made that document. Do I have a note? I don't have a notes document in this. So we've got... This would be a decoder. This is technically ID, not... Yeah, this is technically ID, not Helix. Although it might be considered part of the Helix API. Guide authentication. Absent authentication guide. Over with. How did I miss you? So that's how to authenticate to the API, which is slightly different header-wise. Oh, actually, yeah, I've got the code to make these headers in the standard HTTP library, but that is an opaque type I can't get into. That's a validate response. Client ID, login scopes, user ID. So there's the access token, there's the refresh token, maybe. Expires in scope token type. Now, I don't know that all of these are going to be in our responses. It might depend on the type. Is this from a refresh? Refresh token. So it's a new access, new refresh, new scope. Unsuccessful response. Token invalid or missing required scope. There are different scopes. So I need the, what is it, application flow? Okay, that's the client secret. That must be for user. App access tokens for server to server. Yeah, client credentials. Optional scope. Refresh token is going to be blank. But this suggests it does have the same format as the regular tokens, so that a decoder would work for both. So all of these requests are currently made to ID. We're going to be a bit like, well, a bit like this, which has all the documentation stuff set up. So we're going to have an access token and an access token. And what kind of terminator does this use? Okay, just a regular. We don't necessarily need groups for this. Does like helix. Okay, it does. I don't know if anything's simple enough. I still want this. I'd still like the some of the other decoders in this package. Maybe I don't need to put this in here yet. Now, helix decode. Okay, so we're going to group these together. This might not need twitch.parse, which means it might not need parser.advanced or all the time stuff. Now, technically, this should possibly deal with some kind of secret system. So that it's protected all the way through. Well, I'll be decoding this in the app, so it's not going to be going through the messages. Yep. Okay, well, that doesn't work. I might actually be able to make a type for that. Oh, these are these are the parameters to the call. It is technically a string. It just happens to be a blank string. I don't know if I need to decode, if I should really bother decoding the maybe on that. This is just seconds. It seems to be an integer. I think this is a list string. Now these can conceivably be a fixed set of things, except there's no documentation of what the token types are. Yeah, this took me to a single spot. Now, there's an ID token, so this is like... Yeah, this is the OIDC flow. So it might not actually work for that. And they didn't format these nicely. Refresh token expires in scope. ID token. It's still a bearer. Oh, you've got no auth to a user info? Well, that, we don't have a user, so... And the ID token is like a JSON web token, probably. So this just has to be a string, because I have no idea. I mean, that really just should be bearer, from what I can find, but maybe a new type will crop up. I'd have to have like an other. It'd have to be like bearer or other if we did it. So this thing can have an ID token apparently as an optional field. So access, refresh, expires, scope. And that one actually is a maybe. Of course, every time we change this, then becomes a breaking change to the API because it's a slightly different type. In theory, scopes could be enumerated too, but that seems like that could be a pretty volatile thing. I'm also wondering if JSON is actually in the response, which would make this a little bit harder to use. Well, we're not actually doing this stuff. I was just trying to figure out what the token types were. I'm wondering if that's a little bit of a leftover from, because I know with the old API it was like type equals OAuth or is authorization OAuth or something to the bearer. So that's an OAuth. Now that makes me wonder if you should actually have like OAuth token and like OIDC token, which would actually be different types. Because there was definitely a field difference there. But then it wouldn't just be access token. This would be like, what would you call this? App access token. Now this is OAuth authorization for a user. So I guess this is OAuth. That's OIDC. User and app. So that's an app token. Okay, so yeah, so there is kind of the user access token wrapper around that, and this includes the ID token. So the user access token means they consider those sort of similar. Any of those flows would work for an OAuth token. Well, presumably you know which flow you're using. But do we want to, well, the ID token is sort of the thing inside the access token. Or is that more like an access token response? Making this request, simple request. The response looks like and if we wanted to be fancy, we could say, well, there's an app access token that doesn't have a refresh and a user access token that does have a refresh. Alternately, we could treat this as OAuth and OIDC. This is the IDD code. These are both OAuth. OIDC would have the same, well, it includes the access token. So maybe this is really, yeah, Twitch does OAuth. I don't really know if there's any need to get picky about blank or not blank refresh token. You could do a different decoder that just doesn't pull the refresh token for app access tokens. Yeah, OAuth over. Oh, this is going to be a map N. I probably did the expanded form in my other one. Well, that was interesting. Yeah. Now you're pretty much just going to be bearer. But the only way to encode all possible responses is to have like an other type. And since there actually aren't multiple types, there's no real utility to even switching off that field. Twitch API, source Twitch doesn't exist. All right, so we've got a sample here, which I was tending to put samples in my code anyway. It's like user sample data. So we did it like that. And I guess if I'm doing this, even though I don't have a use case right now, I'm not going to deal with OIDC. They could get into actually parsing out the individual ID tokens. So other app. For now, we just want to do... I mean, we could even just do... okay, so that's from there. This will eventually be from other libraries. I think you can do that. It'll just merge them. Now to test this, we need to do what? It's like decode from string. Decode string. The decoder. Decode dot OAuth. Okay, so that's in this package actually. So I don't like these ambiguous cases. Right, it's not even watching that directory. Deco. I guess we have to run that once to get it to print. It's a little bit of a weird case because doesn't it technically use that symbol? So I might actually have to put it somewhere in the kind of like in the loop. Yeah. So init does initial model. So we need to do, this is where we kind of end up with these things usually. Okay, access token, access token. Okay, both of those seem to be fine. We'd actually pulled in everything from there. Now, we want to be a little bit careful what we do with that. So this is fetch token. We want to decode this and grab the access token. Maybe secret, so it's going to be like double encoded, but okay. We have a state where that's not there and a state where it is. So this is going to be a model update. Of auth as just. Is it make secret? Maybe not. To string, or from string. Oh man, this is a whole pipeline. So this is JSON. Decode string. No, this actually is JSON, so it's a decode value. Using and then dot access token and then secret dot from string and then it's a maybe value. And we actually do want to do some stuff here. And the whole point of secret is that if we put debug.log here, it shouldn't be able to print that. Right, it's access token. Right, your result yourself. So we could you could do a bunch of result maps. We can do a to maybe. We can actually combine these. And then that makes it a maybe. And we forgot our result dot to maybe. Auth nothing. Okay, so that did not actually work out. Unfortunately, we can't really be streaming access tokens. So nowhere in here can print this unless we do like there's probably like a JSON encode Yeah. Which we don't. No, we do have in code. It's the full JSON decode. Pardon? Oh, I was looking at the other. I was looking at the other package. I had to do this just for this. All right, what are we actually getting back? They changed from blank refresh token to no refresh token. So they actually are different types. Well, or you treat it as a maybe. So this is a bad sample. So that would indeed have failed our test. So we can have a single encoder with a maybe, but we know that if it's an app access token, we don't, it's either a refresh token isn't there or isn't valid. And user access tokens, we expect them. What's the documentation call this? That's the client credentials flow. OAuth authorization. But they're called for app access tokens. So that's like an authorization response. Naming is hard. This does give us the opportunity to kind of normalize that a little bit. Which is what we did here. Now, before I was just doing a sample for user. OAuth author, OAuth client yeah. OAuth client credentials flow. OAuth authorization code. You know, I really shouldn't do this. I'm not actually going to be getting, as we just saw, the documentation samples are not very good. If I'm not going to be doing an actual user auth, then I can't verify that this is correct. You. All right, we've probably seen that. Oh yeah, and how much? We also had a JSON encode. 72 to 74, well, that's not too bad. I guess that's technically like 2,000 lines. Okay, that didn't compile. Because that's still the old program. Yeah. Oh, this is actually... We didn't get all of our renames here. And yeah, we miss more. Auth nothing. I guess what I need to be doing is before I to maybe this. And just throw the error away. Expecting an object with a field named scope. Oh, you're a string. I thought I was JSON decoding this. JSON parse raw data. What? What's raw data then? Oh no, because I'm stringing it myself. It also doesn't include scope in the app access token because it's... Now, you see, this is tricky. Because this might be that they're actually omitting blank fields rather than the types are different. Now, an app access token we expect to always be blank refresh token. That's kind of okay. Scope... is a thing that you could pass. So this has to handle a possibly blank list. Well, we used this on our sample user token before, so it's sort of okay. Oh no, actually, you're going to be a list, right? Well, we still have this. All right, I think I'm done with you. Just secret internals. I might actually need to encode before we're done here, but that's it for now. All right, is this screen? No, that doesn't do the back buffer, so I'm just gonna make a new window. All right, so we completely removed our... our print. We'll just double check that. Okay, we printed out that we got something. Now, realistically, what we do from here is that this was a fetch token response, which means we need to do the next step, which is to go back to yeah, this is where we want to handle stacked requests. So it's like if these take a really long time to come back, we could potentially have overlapping Lambda requests. I may have to find a better way to deal with that. But it would be the same as, well, no, that'd be specifically this. No, it would be specifically whatever we would go here, which we haven't defined yet. So this would be fetch videos. And you're going to need all the no, you just need the, we still need the client ID. No, env is, yeah, env is a beast. Okay, these are going to become shared. And so token token host name API. Too many APIs. Fetch user by name, which we may have to deal with that at some point. Fetch user. Right, I actually removed this call to start testing out our endpoint. Actually, speaking of checkpoints. Oh, I actually had the status code in there. Well, we're hopefully moving up in the world. Except we started to do all this stuff. That we're not really ready for yet. And I put in a function that doesn't exist. So you'll be part of that potentially. It actually wouldn't be a breaking change to add something. And then what did we remove? No, that's... Lambda. Actually, this, yeah. All right, so we're going to have a host name to a fetch. We've got most of our stuff in place here. Host name is going to be common. You don't take end. You're going to be user ID. Helix videos. Fortunately, I'm not copying this. So we've got room for typos there. So we need env. We need maybe secret auth. We need user ID. Okay, so we've got standard headers. You've got some of this stuff in it. We've got OAuth headers is going to be standard headers. I think you can do that with lists. We'll have to sort out how I want to do that. You're going to need, you're actually going to have an argument, which is going to be an env. I probably want a function that's just that. Maybe. We'll see how this goes. And we only need the client ID from here. Oh, this needs the auth. Because if we have that and anything, we have that problem. If we have anything and auth, we've got, or and nothing, we've made a grave error. Just a secret token. And this we can sort of get from Helix. Oh, so that was just client ID token. And I have to go to the stuff to get that out of the end, though. But this assumes you've got a plain text token. Now, I could do something like, or we've got this little function. Or we do that, and then you could do, we do have to change the type here. And then I guess order doesn't matter. That'd be a little bit clearer. I guess I could technically do standard headers in that case. But actually, part of the point of changing this API is that we know it's going to be required. OAuth headers. Token hostname. Helix hostname. Videos path. I almost want to do something to put these together. They do exist as independent state. Let's say lambda that request. So that does technically work. Headers get a little bit scary. So that should encode all the way through. It's just a generic request. Info tag, res status code. User IDs, put that in the wrong place. Client ID is a secret. Oh, that would be a secret too. Okay. Videos. No. I still should have had a Twitch headers. Fetch token. Right, we haven't actually called our code. Fetch videos. Model.env. We either need to capture the token or the auth. Right, you don't like. It's a white space sensitive compiler. Right, you're a maybe. So conceivably, we could take care of all that junk up ahead. Except that we're going to have multiple call sites. So these are all like kinds of maybes. I mean, you're like a maybe auth, you're a maybe user ID. Except I actually have to do a case to get the value. I might end up threading the user ID through the request chain, because then you'll have a situation where you've always got it. Okay, so it's a bad status. We don't have a means to print the error message in that case. HTTP error. Right, that was all the information that the other API gave us. Oh, body go. No, that's a bad status. Oh, wait, actually does send the body, because that's the error message. So that bad status was the response from regular Elm, which I kind of copied, and it's like, what? So now you are yourself a map to. Wait, you're a map error. This is where named decoders that could maybe start to become useful. Expecting a string. This is Lambda decode error, which means we're back at this level where it expected a... Expected a oh, it might be a value. Which means printing it is going to be useless on this side. Not found. So I probably did typo our URL here. All right, so the path is not going to contain any, so the videos path is not going to contain any secret stuff. No, it's still going into parts at the JavaScript level. Helix videos, type equals archive, user ID equals. Oh my gosh, didn't want to collect junk. API.twitch.tv. I don't know an easy way to get that entire thing into a search string. I'm not seeing it. Okay, so that's the info, API twitch.tv, not found. It's not an authorization failed. Now, we don't actually have the problem yet. Where authorization is required. Oh, it's post. I forgot to change the method. Index, get rid of that. Fetch videos, okay. And that we should already have a decoder for. That's fetch token. Right, so this was the... All right, it was just tag. I probably didn't give you... No, I did. Actually, we have to do a decode here. I could probably arrange some system where we say, well, if it's a response, we look up the tag, we see what the decoder is, we try that, and maybe we do some centralized handling there. For now, well, there's videos, decode value, just videos. This is where we have to do something with it. I don't know if you have it with default. Okay. Now we'll get into all the dependencies of the Twitch stuff. But it has to be my explicit dependencies. It's not... It's already installed? Really? You sure about that? It might be confused because we've got nested projects here. No, that's Lambda branch. You were compiler, so you were not... Yeah. We gotta do a kind of weird thing here. And then it's probably going to complain about something else. Like ISO. Which is not an easy to find string. Now eventually these will become like indirect dependencies. If we can ever move this down. Oh, yeah, we needed parser advanced for it. This is all just for like the timecode stuff. Oh, it was right there. Didn't see it actually got to that one. Maybe the date strings used it. Okay, and that's a big O response. Now, we don't need a big O response. We had a thing. Oh, there it was. That did this, and then mapped out a few things. Well, actually, yeah, so this was doing more of a pass-through. Actually, this is where... Yes, this is more of a drop-in before. That was doing the filtering, so I actually have to get back my filter. So I need something like that. Oh, I had imported this as Helix before. Which probably makes more sense. Which means you should probably be like ID. Okay. It's also kind of nice just to have everything decoding together, but that might read a little bit better. So helix.archive, and then you probably had... Oops. Well, actually, your mapping function probably holds up pretty well. Everything is scheduling it. All right. Oh, this was an inline map. I didn't even have a function for it. Now... Right, this was using... I made a new decoder that did all the fancy stuff. And then, So I could also... I can also turn these into events. I do need to have a return type that we map to, and then... Well, technically we only need an encoder. You could pass it the video and just encode all you care about. We're not really doing anything with this. And this is also where I have to start dealing with the reply. Oh, is that as far as you want to go with that? That was steps. Now, is this make videos call or is this parse videos call? Yeah, this is make videos call. And then we're deciding what we want to do with the response. I could just take it and encode it as what we're going to send. And at worst, I store the JSON blob in the model until we're ready. Assuming I don't want to do any more calculation on it. So now we need our own Lambda encoder module. That will turn, well, duration is probably just like a number of seconds already. POSIX duration, that will have to get serialized as a POSIX second. Do you need a type? Well, your function might have a record with at least signature? If I use the same field names. So then in that case, it would be a video that it would handle. And then our encoder, that'll be videos. So videos would go to list video. Equals map. Well, actually, it kind of is just that. And video is a video to value. Just an object. And do we want to call this events, or do we want to call it like the Twitch field? I guess we'd let the event deal with its thing. And we'll need a new deserializer for this. Oh, I already sort of did that. I just pulled out two fields. But I left them in the old format, so I do have to update those. Now I have to serialize a time. Actually, I don't know if I need to do with times here, or with the time type much. And then that's actually going to be an int. No, it's value. Duration is actually going to change. Because that was encoded as a string. We're going to encode it as seconds, which is, I think it just is an int. Actually, I haven't done anything with this yet, so we want to do that. And we put that in the wrong directory because we're actually... Did we? It's not here. It's not there. We put it in Lambda, not source. Is it not map? Oh, map, and it meets list. Okay, so it's not field. All right, object is a pair. We encoded it. So, okay, internals. So now we actually have to handle the reply problem. Clear the code, think with the follow. Hopefully that's actually the right thing. We want I have to. The simple way is, I don't know, because I have to save the callback somewhere. We could pass it over to Elm and then pass it around as a sort of request token. It would just be an opaque JSON value. Or we put it in a table in the JavaScript side and have some sort of like request ID. So they keep saying not to put Elm functions in models, or I think kind of messages too. I'm not exactly going to be able to use the Elm debugger here anyway. From the Elm side, it would just be kind of an opaque, session request variable. But that's going to have to move all the way through the entire app. You know what? I think this might be the kind of thing, right, because I left that open in U. Just our default document. So we do have that. We've kind of fixed that. That was that general problem. So we need to work out a method to associate result with its JS callback. So we got callback as JSON.value, maybe? And I have to, right now I've got the user ID in the model. If I'm handling that value, we could pass both around. That might give us some protection against some weird async things. But I looked in Lambda should only give you one request at a time. But like if it times out and we've still got requests going, I'm worried we could have a response come back at the wrong place and just like pull stuff out of the model. But this is one of those things that could be lots of experiments and failed attempts, so I don't think I want to get to it just now. I want to have lunch at some point. I think I also saw that there was another Elm stream coming up. So it's not like there's no place to go. So that's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching. Let me... Yes. So thanks to the people who subscribed to me. Thanks to the people who hosted me. Looks like there is another Elm stream going. I didn't see a title for it. You know what? I actually do need to get my own window here. This is about when I'm usually on. I was doing some Step Mania, but that wasn't really a thing people watch all that much. Or I'm not very good at it, I don't know. So I'm probably going to have to be exercising on my own time. No. There, and that did not start. So that's someplace cool to hang out. Thanks for hanging out with me.
A
Goodbye
string,
until
if it
next
matches
time.
this